Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham, and with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. And in Israel, we are still, as we speak, in the midst of a peace treaty, allegedly, Nathalie, as we spoke about in the program last week. Although it only concerns Gaza, and although there are still things happening in Gaza, there's been sadly Israeli soldiers who've lost their lives, and there have been action.
Two of them.
At least two. I think I've read a bit more, but have lost their lives in Gaza since the peace treaty. So this is the stage we're in, and I think we mentioned it last time on the program that although the peace treaty has been put in place, and although people say there's peace, it still feels very much like war in the sense of a spiritual dimension. And also it's very interesting that construction is keeping going. Even all during the war, construction projects were started in Israel. Although, as we've said on the program before, there have been issues with Palestinian workers. Some are still coming, but the majority aren't, as far as I'm aware, and that has caused a shortage, and there have been foreign workers who've been coming into Israel to do the work. Now, I want to talk a bit about travel, those who like travel, and particularly those who are thinking or considering coming to Israel, war or no war. It's very important to know what you're letting yourself in for. Now, in Israel, there is the electronic travel authorization. If you're from the United States, you might be familiar with this, or you travel to the US, they have a similar scheme, and it's now required, it's mandated for all visitors to Israel as of 2025, and very similar to the American system. Now it's required for all visitors to Israel, and all entrants to Israel at least 72 hours must enter their passport number, a valid email address, and a valid payment method to cover the required registration fee of 25 shekels, or about $7. Once the electronic application is submitted, an immediate response is emailed to most applicants, with some requiring up to 72 hours to process. Since the Israeli Population and Immigration Authority, or the Ministry of Interior, may follow up with additional questions, it's possible. For some applicants, travelers should consider submitting, and if you're considering coming to Israel, you should consider submitting well in advance. Once approved, the electronic authorization is valid for up to 2 years, Nathalie, or until your passport expires. And it permits business, if you want to carry out business in Israel, or tourism, but there is a maximum of 90 days, i.e. just less than 3 months. Applicants denied under the ETL will be generally advised to apply for it. It's not the end of the world. You can still apply for a visa stamp at your local Israeli embassy in the country that you live in. Now, there are exemptions. In other words, not everybody has to have the electronic travel authorization. If you have a valid Israeli visa, that's a B1, B3, B4, or a number of the other ones. Travelers also holding a foreign passport who have Israeli citizenship do not have to have it. US military, which, by the way, is very interesting, because as we mentioned on the program the last program, we mentioned about the United States troops coming in, hundreds of them coming into Israel for the Gaza peace treaty, and US senior general coming as well. So that would be helpful for them, that they don't have to apply for this electronic travel authorization. So bear that in mind if you're considering coming here, that you need to do that. Talking about travel, Europe may subject travellers to lie detector tests. Well, that sounds quite harsh just in itself, but it gets worse. The European Union, or the United States of Europe, is considering subjecting foreign travellers to AI lie detector tests, whatever that is. Authorities at borders, now listen to this, will use cameras with machine learning software to detect whether a person is being untruthful. So it's subject to you're being subjected to software to see if what you're saying is the truth. How would it work? As travellers, and that includes those coming from Israel, Nathalie, go to the airport, they fill out their entry applications at borders, their eye, facial and behavioural movements will be analysed. If the camera indicates the traveller is lying, the software, the AI software, will send an alert to an immigration officer who will investigate. The technology has already allegedly, and who knows, been successfully tested in trials by European Union countries in the last few years. Border control and trespass, two such trials explored how to create an automated border control system. We're getting to the stage, I'm not sure, I've not been to the airport recently or to airports recently, but we're getting to the stage where it's all automated, including your ticket, your airline ticket, and your border control, passing the border control, that this is all automated by machines, which is great if they work properly. If they don't, then it's not so great for you. And I think we're coming into a dystopian, it's all kind of linked together, all this control things, Nathalie.
It's all computers.
Yeah.
When you think, it's interesting what you are saying, because I was reading a book, and it's like a very old book of stories, and I was saying, oh my gosh, you can see the difference, because we get used to this kind of thing slowly, but when you look at history, people were traveling in a very different way, and
things have changed a lot.
Yes.
And not in a good way, I don't think. Now, not everybody's a fan of this. Critics of the lie detection scheme, the software, the facial recognition, include Patrick Brainer, a German member of the European Parliament, who told the Daily Mail, the UK news, that the technology is pseudoscience. In other words, it's not real, that threatens to profile the wrong people. It will discriminate against anyone who is disabled or who has an anxious personality. It won't work, he says. Now, if the EU decide to implement this system, it's likely to be introduced as part of the new entry-exit system due to take effect this month as we are speaking to you. So this is something to keep your eye out for, and to do some further investigation into.
Again, when we look, because it's always good to look further and like having a big vision of what's happening, since COVID, is getting more and more difficult to travel. This is the point of, I don't think the New World Order wants us to be free. I mean, we know that. And then because of that, they are making traveling more and more difficult. And we can see that.
Unless you're part
of
the
elite.
And
we heard stories of people having trouble.
Right, unless you're part of the elite. Now, I spoke about this last time, and I feel it's so important. And I didn't really give it the share it should have had on the programme, because it's so vital for you to understand. I said in the last programme that the Israeli Prime Minister's office has announced a Brigadier General to head up its National Artificial Intelligence headquarters, which will be located in the Prime Minister's office. Now, why do we need such a high-ranking general to be in charge of artificial intelligence? And by the way, the artificial intelligence infrastructure will include energy and research. Energy is anything concerning the water, electricity, the supplies of the nation. Now, the other reason that they put it in the Prime Minister's office is they want to promote this is very concerning, what's called supercomputing capabilities. Critics of this AI in the land are very concerned about supercomputers enabling artificial superintelligence. Well, what is artificial superintelligence? It's a form of AI capable of surpassing human intelligence by manifesting cognitive skills and developing thinking skills of its own. And I've got news for you folks. I believe that this is already in process, that they're already using this kind of technology is already there. What's interesting, and I think some of you may remember, I spoke about Amazon being involved in the supercomputer for Israel, being involved in part of this Project Nimbus. Now, it's the most, ASI is considered the most advanced, powerful, intelligent AI that transcends the intelligence of some of the most brilliant minds, such as Albert Einstein. Computers with superintelligence are self-aware. Well, that's very concerning of itself. What does that mean? Self-aware. They can think abstractions, interpretations that humans cannot. This is because the human brain's thinking ability is limited to a set of a few billion neurons. Apart from replicating multifaceted human behavior, intelligent ASI can understand and interpret human emotions and experiences. And I spoke a bit about the cameras that can detect human emotions from facial recognition. An ASI system can quickly understand, analyze, and process circumstances to stimulate actions. So more concerning than all of this technology is the fact that the technology can actually get involved in human life, can get involved in day-to-day decisions, can be more precise, they say, than humans. Many people, quite rightly, have cautioned on the idea of machines surpassing human intelligence.
Yeah, we spoke about that already a few times.
Yeah, so this is something very concerning, and something you need to be aware of, something you need to be watching, and we will keep you updated as to that. But the fact that it's located in the Israeli Prime Minister's office is a matter of concern, because it has to be very important and significant for the country for that kind of an event, for that kind of a location to be used. Now, I've talked a bit about this before, but the towering monstrosities, Nathalie, of Jerusalem, the holy city being filled with towers, and recently, and we've seen them as you drive down the highways and byways of Jerusalem, you will see on the road advertisements for Midtown Jerusalem tower blocks, which is a development reshaping the historic city in a negative fashion, I might say. Critics say the new luxury tower blocks are just for the rich. You know, they are millions of shekels, which ordinary Jerusalemites just dream about, not even have. Whether the question of them having millions of shekels is out of the question, and it's something they just dream about, the average Jerusalemites. They are forcing people out of the city, they're forcing its population movement, and critics say they're fostering loneliness and disconnect. And the Midtown Jerusalem Tower Block project comprises 700 residential units, not sure who's going to live there, Nathalie, 2 hotels, 60,000 square meters of office space, and there's going to be hotel areas within the project. One Jerusalem commentator said, vertical cities like these are always result in overcrowding and traffic congestion. Well, you know, they won't have a problem with that because they're trying to stop your car coming into Jerusalem, so traffic congestion shouldn't be a problem. They will also, this is very important for you to think about, taint its biblical and traditional nature and history. you know, the municipality, by the way, in Jerusalem is claiming that constructing 500 of these towering monstrosities will give the holy city a vertical facelift. And I think that it's a disaster that is happening in front of our eyes. And if you visit Jerusalem, you will see these towering tower blocks being constructed. Now, Nathalie, you've got some things to share with us?
Yes, which is a bit different than all these things, which is very nice. You know, we know that we're in a timetable right now, and we can see things really going fast into the last days. We've been speaking about it for many years, but now we're like speeding along, and we can see everything. You know, it's like a labor. When a lady is in labor, it's slow, and suddenly everything is accelerating, and it's what we can see. So there is the pain of this baby coming, but when the baby will be there, the pain will be gone. And it's interesting because I spoke already last year about a book which is called The Last Slave. You can find it, and it's the story of Connie. I can't remember, but if you write The Last Slave, and it's a book written by the wife of a rabbi, is very, very interesting, and they speak about the reality of the slavery in Egypt. They use a lot of history and text that they have, and the lady use all these history facts and put it in a story. And when I read it last year, it was like, oh my gosh, it's so real. It was a lot of physical pain, but I was speaking with one of my friends who said this is very interesting because you can see so much parallel right now with what we're living here in Israel, but it's more psychological pain that we have this time compared to it was more physical before, which is again interesting because I was speaking with another friend, and when we're speaking about Gog and Magog, is like there is something about, she was saying something about Gog, the root of it, and it was like, is like thoughts. And so we are more bombarded in our thoughts of things who are not right, and we know about, you know, the Prince of Peace, which is not really the Prince of Peace, and all these things. So when we look at all these things, we know when the baby will come will be the final redemption, that will arrive at a time where the Messiah will come and come back for the Christians, and he will reign. He's the son of David. He's from the lineage of David. He was born in Bethlehem, which is the place of King David, and he's done so many things in the life. And right now we are in Tiberias, and it's very interesting to be in this area because we can see, we can still sense the ministry of Jesus in this around the lake, which is very interesting. Anyway, so we are looking at the millennium will come. Like we spoke already many times, we're in the 6,000 time on the Jewish calendar, which is again, I really encourage you to go more and more with the Jewish calendar, because there is things that you can see in the history that we can see with the Gregorian calendar, which is the one that we're using usually around the world. So the Jewish calendar shows things with the feast and explain to us is really like you see prophecy coming, and it's really pinpointing where we are at. So now that we are preparing to go in the 7th millennium, all around the world, we have been prepared, and all of us, one maybe more than the others, maybe we started earlier than some people, but we can see, and even here in Israel, we can see more and more. I'm going to speak about Shabbat. We can see more and more people embracing the peace and I wish almost the magic, but it's not. It's like the peace and the holiness of Shabbat. And when you read it, is in Genesis. Let us read it together. In Genesis 2, no, sorry, it's Genesis 1 at the end, but the seventh day. So it's I'm right. It's chapter 2, verse 2, and it's by the seventh day God has finished the work that He has been doing. So it's very interesting because God took 5 days to prepare the earth for us, and we're born on the sixth. Man was created on the sixth day. So God took a long time to get all the earth ready for us. And then the seventh day, He finished His work that He has done. And on the seventh day, Shabbat, He rested from all His work. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. Because on it, He rested from all the work of creating that He has done. And then He said to the people, this is your day also for stopping and resting. And I tell you, since we do Shabbat, it's like it brings a peace in your life. And it's interesting because we heard also about, so many people maybe might not have heard that, but when Charlie Kirk died, he discovered also Shabbat, and he was doing Shabbat. He was a Christian, and he rediscovered that. And so he was disconnecting of his television, computer, phone, having time with the family, having a nice meal together, or nice meals with the family, with friends, but just disconnecting. And it makes such a difference in your life. It's just unbelievable, because it's like you are not looking at things anymore. You are not doing, you are. And it's really what God wants us to be in one day. He's asking us to work, yes, for 6 days, but He said you can be on the seventh day, and it makes a lot of difference. And I have another passage also that I wanted to share with you, which is in Isaiah. It's the last chapter of Isaiah, and is when He's speaking about all the promises that God has. And this is what He said. So it's Isaiah 66, and it's verse 22. As the new heavens and the new earth that I make will endure before me, declares the Lord Adonai, Yud-He, Vav-He, His holy name. So will your name and descendant endure. From one new moon to another, which is interesting, is like Rosh Chodesh, which is a new moon. Like again, because you remember the Jewish calendar is not just a lunar calendar, it's a moon calendar with the sun. Like the Muslim is only the moon, and the Gregorian is only with the sun, but the Jewish people is a moon calendar, but who are careful with the sun. So sometimes they have leap years to go back into the normal time, especially for Passover. Okay? So the new moon is very important because, again, when we say Rosh Chodesh, Chodesh means new, like renewing. And so we can renew ourselves. We are always learning, we are always changing. And if we've done some wrong things, there is always a place where we can do tshuva, we can repent, we can go back to God, and we can renew our lives and change again. There is always, it's not like forever bad. It's like there is always renewing. And this is when I've learned that, it was like suddenly give you inside a hope and a future that you can get out of the routine and you can change and you can renew yourself. So there is the new moon will be important from one Shabbat to another. And listen to that. From one new moon to another, and from one Shabbat to another, all mankind will come and bow down before me, say Adonai. Okay? So it will be all mankind who will go back to Shabbat, like in Genesis. And Isaiah, this is the last chapter when he could see what God was going to do, what would all the future or the good thing that he was going to do, and this is where we are going. And so I really encourage you. Interesting enough, there is some Jewish people who've never done Shabbat, and there is a new movement, and they are inviting people, come and we are going to teach you about, Shabbat and the beauty of it. And people are amazed, and people are changing, and people are making aliyah because they want to be in the land where Shabbat is so important. Everything's, not everything stop, but a lot of things stop. You can feel when Shabbat comes. Friday morning is like moving, and the afternoon comes, and suddenly everything slows down, and Shabbat comes. And this is just beautiful. So I encourage you to really have a day to stop and to be, and it's really, you can renew yourself, and it's very important.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the program. It's been great to have your company, and let us know where you're watching. You can contact us from on the website. There's the email address, and you can email us and let us know where you're watching. You can also support the program. We appreciate you, all our faithful partners who are making this program possible. We appreciate you so much that you're enabling us to do this program and to come into people's homes. And don't forget, the website has tons of information, and that's www.israelfirst.org. And remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.